Invasive species are a threat. You know, they're threatening places that we care about. They threaten the wilderness character of an area. You may see some and you may not see them, or you just may not see them yet. For an organism to be considered invasive, it's got to have 3 criteria. So it's not native to the ecosystem where you find it. It can multiply and reproduce or spread, and it can cause harm or damage to the environment. So those 3 factors are what determine an invasive species. And protecting our wild places, our America's wild places, has a value and purpose. We want to protect a place's wilderness character, the plants and the wildlife that are there. As a collective, we're protecting not only history, but habitats, wildlife, plant, and insect specimens, and even fond memories. So a loss of native habitat and plants and wildlife can be your indication of invasive species pressure. And increased environmental hazards create negative ecosystem impacts like fire or poor aquatic environments. Lack of native population and species survivorship pose long-lasting effects. And the invasive species ultimately don't care, but we do. So what can we do better? How can we better work together to solve this problem of invasive species? Well, we've got to look most importantly at how we can get our public engaged in protecting and restoring their favorite places. You got to think you're not the only one that's there. And a lot of our public and federal lands are available. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get people involved? Well, here is the role of Wild Spotter and its role in conservation. So Wild Spotter is a proactive, not necessarily reactive, because we know that our species can be there, but we want to be there before they become an issue. So it's a proactive detection campaign with a clear call to action. You've got to join, you need to download, you can identify and map and protect. When we can't get people to report invasive species, or they don't understand or know that it's a problem, we're not going anywhere. So finding our audience is going to be key. And when I say audience, I'm kind of meaning your workforce. Wild Spotter is a campaign that is going to need people behind it. This is aimed at the public, and the app component, our Wild Spotter app component, is simple and useful. It's a handheld tool that we use to help support the protection of our wild places. But how do we do that? Wild Spotter is a place-based detection campaign. It has 4 major components. We have products, we have places, we have people, and we have promotion. And so if you think about an umbrella, the umbrella being Wild Spotter, all of these 4 components fall under there. Products enable Wild Spotter's function. Wild places are the core of the campaign as the what that needs to be protected. The people who care about the wild place are on the ground. They are our on the ground workers who are protecting a place by using the Wild Spotter products. And then, of course, we use promotion to engage our volunteer scientists, to educate them about invasive species, and make them aware of why it's important to care and protect America's wild places. Now, these components are interconnected. It's not like a tricycle. I guess it's like the 4 walls of a house. You're going to see that these concepts are going to be woven through this presentation, and you'll see that programs that implement Wild Spotter will see success when all of these components are working together in some fashion. So let's talk about some products. Well, it all begins with EDDMapS. And some of you may be familiar with EDDMapS and some of you may not, and that's quite all right. Um, EDDMapS is an early detection and distribution mapping system. So it's old technology that's been around for a bit. It's 20 years in place. It's become the standard for making a point, mapping an instance or an occurrence of an invasive species, gives you a little bit of real-time tracking, provides local and national distribution maps, and a library of identification and management information. So why did we need EDDMapS? So we wanted to make invasive species mapping easy. We wanted people to become aware that invasive species were an issue and facilitate local early detection and rapid response. And just in the instance of wild spotter, to be a platform to support additional applications. So you're bringing digital technology to mapping invasives. But you got to find the right tool for your job. So as the use of EDDMapS and the EDDMapS app increased, the introduction of EDDMapS Pro came on to the mapping invasive species scene, and it became apparent that users' needs for each product were very different. And choosing the right tool for the job would be the key to success. So casual users were using the EDDMapS app, the website. Professionals needed a little bit higher level of data management. And then researchers were looking more towards the back end. What did EDDMapS offer with its uh, data analysis, manipulation, mapping imagery? So we found that we had, you know, a good portion of the audience covered, but we're missing that boots on the ground audience. And we needed something that would work for the everyday naturalist, an outdoor enthusiast, or just families or groups that go on adventure. So introduce the public side of it, the WildSpotter app and the website. The app's going to fit in the palm of your hand. It's equipped to work with and without Wi-Fi. So when you're in the backcountry, you're not really going to have that, but the app supports you. Supporting WildSpotter is EDDMapS. So we've just kind of talked about why EDDMapS came on the scene, why it's important. And then all of a sudden we have WildSpotter. But WildSpotter is just another interface for EDDMapS. All the data is part of EDDMapS, so it's not anything new. It's built on that years standardized platform. But it's a tool that's been built for the citizen scientist. It's simplified. It's geared toward place mapping. So whereas you may just be out doing a survey and you're just snapping with a pinpoint location. This is dedicated place-based mapping. And we'll get more into that. But it can be a part of everybody's invasive species management toolkit. So professional and casual users now have what they needed. And now everyday citizens passionate about nurturing nature can, quote, leave no trace, but make an impact protecting the places that they care about. So how are those products that we talked about under our WildSpotter umbrella? Well, here's the connection. Everything starts with EDDMapS. It's a stable platform. It has a verifier process, meaning that all of the reports that go into EDDMapS are reviewed by our expert verifiers before they're made public. It's still has the species information available, and you're moving into one nationwide database. The WildSpotter users can use the unique features offered by EDDMapS to analyze collected data. So you have a layered approach with connecting EDDMapS and WildSpotter. So what other products come with WildSpotter? Well, we have a website. It's the educational starting place to direct people to learn about the WildSpotter detection campaign. It's that public-facing website that hosts our information, why it's important to care and where to look, as well as a catalog of current and active wild places, support material, and access to manager tools. So you have a front side, but you also have a back end utility side. And then a powerful part of the WildSpotter detection campaign is the app, the in-hand tool to report invasive species while you're enjoying a wild place. Your volunteers, your citizen scientists, your park visitor can come along, identify and map and protect the places that they care about. So, what are the benefits for creating WildSpotter? Well, you have a public level application that's simple to use and easy to teach others. You now have a way for people to care about and do something in the field rather than, hey, I notice it while I'm out there. Let me do something when I get home. It's kind of like asking people to fill out the survey after they've left the conference. They're 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the return that you want. But putting the power in a visitor's hand right where they're at, that just is a it's the tool that they carry with them. Um, you're going to use your 9 to 15-year-old's device skills for good rather than just sitting in front of the gaming station. So there's a bit of a learning curve, but mastery is not hard. So you're going to create an opportunity for your family and friends to interact and get outdoors. And like I said, you've now got a portable tool that fits in your toolbox right next to your gloves, in your weed eater, and your clippers. So, how do you prepare to become a wild spotter? Just like any trip, you're going to know before you go, you're going to prepare, and wild spotter is no different. We created a QR code to make it easy for public use. And you can use your camera's phone to view the code and jump to a page with the options to download the application for your iPhone or your Android phone. And then you'll just tap on the appropriate option and begin the download. If you want to, you can snap this or take a picture and route to it later, but you will scan and download, complete the initial app setup. And in this case, the only ones that are going to lose in this deal are the invasive species. So why not? So to see how simple it is to get started, this would be what you see as you download the app. You're going to come to some introductory slides, and you're going to improve app access to your location. The thing about GPS, it doesn't work if you don't allow access to your phone's location. You're going to you can allow access. Would you like to send notifications? You can send in a schedule summary. Right now, those are not as active, but as the program goes on, you have that option to use those notifications. The camera, our verifiers can't identify and confirm a user report without a photo. So we need access to your camera. The cool thing about this is once you have routed through all these introductory approval settings, you're not going to see them again. So that makes the job easy for your volunteers. You could get a bunch together, route through this, and then be done. So The next time when you launch the app, you're going to be at the home screen, which will where you can select your wild place and let your adventure begin to map invasives. So you're going to get these fun introductory slides where we talk about identifying. Look for invasive species when you're enjoying the outdoors. Locate it. Where are you? Okay, quantify it. How big is the thing that you're seeing? And the cool thing about WildSpotter versus EDDMapS is these are more simplified tools. So is the area as big as a school bus? Everybody knows what a school bus is. Is it the size of a basketball? So WildSpotter is relatable on a public level. And then what are they going to do? They're going to protect. So right there, you get the why do you want this? What do you want me to do? And what am I getting out of it? So, but do you need an account? Well, accounts are necessary to submit reports. If you have an EDDMapS account already, then you've got a WildSpotter account. But an account, and this is a free account, it provides a connection for follow-up between verifier and reporter. It allows you to earn and track achievement badges. There is a gamification point with WildSpotter. You can earn first report badges, you can earn taxa badges, category badges. So it's a neat way to add on to your adventure. So now that we have been introduced to the products, we have our WildSpotter website and our app. We've got a really important core component of our wild places, the places that you want to protect. So, as I mentioned before, WildSpotter supports place-based mapping. The you are here. Every adventure is going to begin with a wild place when you log into your WildSpotter app. You can tap to change in that blue area right here and confirm that this is the place that you want to be in. Be sure you're in the right place so you're mapping your invasives in the correct place. So, what is a wild place? It's a cool name, but a wild place is really, it's any place that you care about. It's a place where the public would visit. It's your favorite recreation area, your national park or national forest. It's your local community park or an urban area, public nature center, a botanical garden, or a campground. Our focus for WildSpotter has been on public lands, and we've been creating our federal places as publicly available wild places for everyone to visit and map invasives. So when we think about wild places in the definition of WildSpotter, we have a few different place categories. We have public lands, we have community places, and we have private places. So without a place, WildSpotter doesn't work, but it allows for user flexibility with the types of place that you create. Remembering that a wild place is any place that you care about. America's places, have different purposes. So in helping distinguish those wild places, these are the categories that we've set up. So a public land. Public lands are WildSpotter headquarter generated as part of a specific project. So national forests and national wildlife refuges, national recreation areas, national parks, wildlife management areas. Currently, all the national forests and national conservation areas or BLM lands are active wild places. And currently we're working on adding our National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service lands. So it's going to be your federal lands. So, but what about a manager created or a community place? This is something that you can create. It's going to be a place From a user's My Wild Spotter dashboard, we're going to talk about that. The user is generally the individual managing that area, or it's associated with the group that cares about that. Um, and an example of your community places would be state forests, community parks, general public areas, campgrounds, public campgrounds. So while the staff at WildSpotter creates all the public lands, we do assist with the community places. For state agency participants, reach out to us. Think about, do you want your state public lands involved, your state forests, or your state parks? Now, private lands, a user can create a private place too. This uses the same process for your community place setup, but it's marked private. These are not going to be visible to other users, but it's going to be visible to you. So maybe this is something that it's a special, family retreat. Nobody else needs to see this, but this family monitors it these 3 months out of the year, another family there. That could be a good instance for a family play, a private place. In this instance, this is Munford Manor. This is my home. So, how do we create a wild place? You've heard a lot about it. And I've introduced you to the app earlier where we learned that all Wild Spotter adventures begin with a wild place. So, I'd like to real quickly walk through creating a wild place. And we're going to do this with a little bit of a live demonstration and open up our Wild Spotter website. So this is the front-facing website where you can learn all about us and celebrating the signing of the Wilderness Act, a little bit of tutorial information, again, our clear call to action and our partners. So number one, check to make sure your wild place doesn't exist already. We have a category of places here that's laid out by state. You can search that. You might not want to create one that's already created, but certainly you can create your own. You'll want to make sure that you're logged in to set up your wild place. So we're going to go to this My Wild Spotter place here. Now, in order to create a wild place, you do need a little bit of information. So let's pop back here real quick. So be prepared. You're going to need a wild place name. You're going to need the type of place, its location, description, image, all of the things that you want to share about the wild place. Even think about who's going to manage it and maybe what kind of species you might want to watch there. Okay, so over here, real simple. We're going to create a new place. And now I have this document set up over here so I can copy and paste real quick. We're going to do a local community park. So this is Fullwood Park. We have a long list of place types. So choose the one that best fits. We've got national forest, national grasslands. For this one, we're going to call this one a city park. We are in the state of Georgia and the county. Okay, and a lot of these are auto-populated, so fill in your county. And if you know your latitude and longitude, go ahead and drop that in there. Or you can do the old hunt and peck method. So all this to say, there's a bit of a learning curve, but don't be intimidated by it. So you can see here we've come right in with a pin centered on Tifton, which is where we are located. And we're going to zoom in and we're going to find good old Fullwood Park. Okay, and I chose Fullwood Park because its boundary is pretty easy. Make sure I don't forget anything here. So you can drop a pin, but that doesn't really set a boundary. Where do you want people to report within? So to do that, you can use your drawing tool, and I'm just going to go right around the perimeter of Fullwood Park here. I'm going to draw my boundary. I said this one was pretty easy. Now, some places are going to have a little bit more complex boundary. We love to help with those. We also have this right here where you can add well-known text. And well-known text is basically just a string of Latin long points that describe the boundary. So it's a real easy, quick copy and paste and add that in. So now that we have our boundary, we want to add our place description. And see, here's where that copy and paste comes in nice and handy because you're really creating a place within a matter of minutes. Choose a photo. All right, this is there. You've got a place to add a photo credit. Our photographers work hard, so don't forget them. And if you have a website or URL associated with this. All right, brings in bullets too. All right, and we're going to save our place information. So just like that, here's Fullwood Park. So this is pretty straightforward and super easy. But we're not really done. When a place is created, you want to think about the invasive species. So identifying your target species. What do you want to do? You want to identify your issues. You want to target your audience, who's coming, and you want to aim for your program goals. Keep those things in mind. So do you have a particular species threat? Are you in a border county where a species introduction may cross a county line? Is this a new program and you're building awareness and engagement? What about your audience? Are they just visitors? Are they seasoned volunteers or general visitors? Make sure that it's simple enough to use without user frustration. You want to have a good mix of species in there. And what do you want to accomplish? So we generally recommend that you use a combination of species. Use a mix of common species that, as well as some potential watched species. So think about this. If you only put stuff that you know is not there, then how are your visitors going to get engaged? You don't know if they're out there doing anything because essentially there's nothing to report. So including common species engages your visitors to be more active. And with your continued promotion efforts, you can gauge their interaction and the success of your outreach efforts by the number of reports your place is receiving. So reporting means that the work that you're doing is working. So and the other thing is you notice that there was a list of not wild places, but invasive species already in there. Each place's invasive species defaults to the state EDDMapS list where that place is located. So going back here, we're located in Georgia. So what it's done is pulled in the EDDMapS list of invasive species for the state of Georgia. So we want to change that. So we can come in here and we can edit the species that we want. So I've just done on my details in advance, what species do we want? So this is auto-populated list. So we want to include wisteria. You can add them one at a time, or you can add several. We want to add a Japanese beetle. Okay, we're going to add some hydrilla. We've got a little bit of water in Fullwood Park. We're going to watch for yellow-legged hornet. All right, the tegu. We want to be sure that it's not moving around and spreading. Tallow tree. So this is where you and your colleagues come into play. What do you need to be watching for? What are you spending time in your traditional control methods working with? What do you need to be on the lookout for? So we're going to use these for our example, and we're going to save these to our species list. Now, if we go back to our place homepage, we've now updated, and now we're not looking, we haven't given our visitors 314 options to report. We've narrowed it down and given them 6. Again, we're not creating user frustration by having too many options. We've narrowed down targets for making it easier for them, as well as gearing towards what our project goal is. So now you created a place, you've identified the target species. Now what? So who's going to report? Who's going to send all this stuff in? I mean, I did all this work. Now what? Well, that's the cool thing. You created this place, and imagine if there was this little workforce of volunteers that were just going to send you information and alerts and let you know if something that you know is there is spreading, or if a new introduction has happened. That's pretty cool, right? Or you promote this within your department and your staff are using it as spur of the moment reporting when they're out and about. And it's not a, hey, oh gosh, I've got to mark that down when I get in. Plus, all the data is stored. It's all in EDDMapS. And then your wild place managers have increased functions with WildSpotter using all of the EDDMapS features. So the so now let's make that connection between the modern mapping tool and the traditional conservation practices. So we've adopted the WildSpotter detection campaign here. We've educated our visitors about the WildSpotter app, or we know that this tool is available for our visitors to use. And then we are going to engage our visitor volunteer workforce, and they are armed and ready to map invasives. We provided our wild place manager with the tools and features that EDDMapS offers and its verifier network to look at public reported data. So this is how we're bringing it together. So WildSpotter can be the agent that's helpful for the species that you didn't know what was there before it explodes by offering a targeted approach. Wow. So what this is a generated map thanks to EDDMapS. I now have targeted locations to send staff to for traditional management. I'm going to utilize their time and their skills in the most efficient way possible. So I'm going to maximize their time over the expense of them being out there. So these are reports that have been generated that are within the counties that Santa Fe National Forest resides. By having the data in one place, you are literally putting a map for your staff to go out and with their control methods. This is the power of WildSpotter, having a targeted approach. But let's talk about a few more components under our WildSpotter detection campaign umbrella, because this one is really important. Our people. Remember, they're our workforce. So, people, invasive species management is powered by people. And programs like this are all about our people. And to do that, we want a champion. Champions are going to equal success. They are the on the ground, boots level, getting in the ditches. They're our detection campaign stewards. They're the catalyst for change. The WildSpotter Invasive Species Ambassador Training is a specialized workshop. It's designed to train anyone to be those champions. So the process of the WildSpotter detection campaign works through a number of people. And the interaction is important. So we have champions. Our champions are going to empower volunteers. Our volunteers are going to help us with our reports in finding what is and what isn't out there. Our verifiers are confirming what our amateur reporters are seeing. Our managers are curating the report data and determining the best solution and the best direction and targeted approach for your management crews. So when all this gets together, you now have the format for wild place preservation and protection. But it couldn't be done without people. So how do we get our champions? How do they learn about WildSpotter? We have the WildSpotter Invasive Species Ambassador Training. So anyone can attend. It is a nomination process, but it's supporting our grassroots level programs. The managers who have developed their programs geared toward invasive species management, they are ready to adopt WildSpotter and implement the learned skills successfully while promoting WildSpotter. The cool thing is now we have a nationwide network of WildSpotter users and advocates. So in 2023, we started with our inaugural class of 59 graduates. In 2025, earlier this year in February, we added 58 graduates to our Invasive Species Ambassador Network. So who comes to these trainings? Who's the target audience for the training? Your rangers, your welcome center staff, your interpreter staff, your communications and outreach officers, naturalists, friends group leaders, volunteer group leaders, natural resource managers, outfitter organizations, anyone that cares about a wild place. So what are they going to learn here? They're going to learn project design. They're going to understand needs assessment, become more audience aware. How do you coordinate volunteers? What about financial management, implementation, promotion, outreach efforts, working with a team, presentation skills, quick thinking and adaptability, probably at the top of the list, networking and idea sharing. All of the components that would go into successfully promoting, implementing an invasive species management campaign with WildSpotter as a driving force. We have a training coming up. February 3rd through 5th, 2026, we're going to be at Lake Guntersville State Park, Alabama for the third class of Invasive Species Ambassador. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate a colleague. You can apply for yourself at invasivesfree.org. to be our third ambassador class. And as our invasive species ambassadors graduate, they learn that what they say has value. For the wild spotter detection campaign to lift off efficiently, it takes caring about a place, um, identifying a champion to lead the effort to care about that place, and having a champion recruit others, make connections, and establish relationships with the place's audience. And then you're moving on out to that good old fashioned outreach. So it's time to let your voice be heard, which brings us to our final campaign component, promotion. So promotion is split into three ways for the detection campaign. You have our marketing and branding communication, the invasive species ambassador training, and the ambassador role itself. So marketing and branding is going to look like, what is your brand image? We have, the blue background, the white headings, our overall communication at a national level, and the support marketing to engage overall campaign awareness. It's the look and feel of WildSpotter so that it becomes recognizable anywhere. All right. And then we have our invasive species ambassador training, where we are cultivating our champions. And then our ambassadors, the ambassador role that they take on, expectations for an ambassador. When they sign on to come to training, they are pledging that they will move forward and share WildSpotter, not only with their community, but with their colleagues and beyond. And to get that done, we have 8 key elements. So they need to learn and teach. They need to have some basic knowledge of WildSpotter. They got to download and use the app, and they need to be able to educate others about it. They're going to adopt it within their community. They're going to make plans for using WildSpotter in their invasive species management efforts. They're going to create a wild place in their community, and they're going to start to recruit others. This is not necessarily your workforce, but to help them with their grassroots efforts. Right? The next 3 key elements go together also. They're going to, like we said, they're not only adopting WildSpotter, which means that they have talked with their community managers, their community leaders, and say, we want to use this. This is the next step. They want to implement it. They want to go the distance. They're going to put it in force in their community. They're going to adapt their plans over time to fit the wild places needs, and they're going to stick with it. Even when the going gets tough, they're going to adapt and move. They're going to promote WildSpotter in their community, and they're going to engage their audience by starting citizen science initiatives. They're going to encourage awareness about why reporting is important and what will happen when we do. And this is communicating with that volunteer workforce. And finally, to round out our ambassador's role, you're going to advocate and share success. You're going to tell others about WildSpotter. You're going to nominate someone to be an ambassador. You're going to come back to us, the WildSpotter headquarters, and you're going to tell us what you're doing. Help us make it better. Document any issues or questions that you have. And let's make our campaign components better. And let us help promote upcoming events. So now moving on, you know that we have our WildSpotter detection campaign that is comprised of products, places, people, and promotion. So now let's adopt the power of WildSpotter. And so how do you do that? Well, it means that number one, you care about a place. You're going to learn about Wild Spotter. You're going to set up your wild place and you're going to teach others. And you're going to empower a champion, whether it's someone that you've nominated or has gone through training in one form or fashion, but that champion to say, I care too. So let's care together. And here's how we're going to do it. You're going to establish a way for people to show that they care. Where you're going to put the power in their hands with the app. You are going to create the signage that they need for educational efforts. You're going to build relationships and trust with your audience. And then again, that old-fashioned outreach and awareness education, whether the problem is invasive species or it's technical components in your backcountry that is harming the character of your wilderness area. Just letting your voice be heard. And then you're going to invite people to your wild place. And when this happens, your success occurs when you have participation and preservation combining to equal protection. And with that,
Yeah, we're right on time, Debbie. Thank you
that
so
is
much.
where Wild Spotter can fit in your toolbox.
Yeah, if you folks have questions, please follow up
Mm-hmm.
debbie.munford.uga.edu.
So, and then the
Oh,
social media, if you want to follow us at Mapping Invasives,
excellent.
mappinginvasives@gmail.com is also another way to reach us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's been an excellent program. I'm really excited to see this, and I'm going to share it with my local city park managers.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Can't wait to
Yes.
do it.
We can't wait to see that wild place come in or a call for help.
I will send them an email and probably follow up. But thank you. What a great presentation, and really appreciate it. Thank you for joining NWSI.